Okay, so that's the end of the first round. I believe everyone has spoken. And so now we do a second round, which is identical in structure to the first round, which is everyone gets 1 minute and then throws the ball to the next person. Who would like to start?
Sure, I'll start. So why not? Since I'm right next to you on my screen, so I figured it makes sense. It's funny. I think we all have sort of the same opinions. Especially when you're talking about the dentist, Farzad, because my wife and I talk about that all the time. I know the dentists, they almost resent when you ask them to explain what their charges are, which makes me crazy. But I think the interesting thing is that I too haven't really had a conversation with someone who, is on the other side, who has a significant objection with sort of universal healthcare. And so I think it's funny, I only see that in abstract, but I think somehow I would love to have that kind of a conversation with someone and really get into a detailed conversation with them about why they object, with real people, not just policy wonks and stuff like that. So with that, I'll pass it back off to Kate.
I think I pass it back to Michael, right? Or do we keep going around because I've already spoken?
Yep, we're in the second round, and so everyone speaks again for 1 minute.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Okay.
Or you can pass.
I'll pass. I'll pass it back to Sasha.
Okay, so yeah, I had a real experience of when my grandfather needed a surgery. We spent maybe a month on the way how we could find contact information of the good sergeant, how to find the way to pay under the good so that you could be in so my grandfather will be in his hands. I recently visited my friend in Sweden. Yes, they have Medicare for good Medicare, but always a but. They paid 63%. Do we want anything like that? And there is always a middleman who controls how this money is distributed between the doctors. With this said, I would probably pass this to James.
All right, I'm going to inject noise into the system and pretend to be in opposition. Let's see. You guys are just, I'm comfortable with my private healthcare system. Why should I have to pay for other people? Let's see. I'm an American and I love freedom and autonomy. Why should I care? It seems like you guys are pushing some kind of communist agenda, Why should I pay for a socialist system when, what we've got's working great right now? Again, these are not my views. I'm just playing, I'd like to inject a little noise here. Yeah, and let's see, what else? Yeah, get a job, pay for your own healthcare. All right, hopefully that stimulated something. Farzad, would you like to go next?
Of course, thank you. So earlier I brought it up that I'm not from US, but I've lived in 5 other countries before moving to US. So I do have some sort of understanding for the differences between all these countries' healthcare systems. What I've noticed is just first of all, the number of insurance companies that will provide you, for example, dental insurance is just limited. We don't have options to go and see that, okay, this company is just providing these options and that's an amount that they are charging us, and some other companies are doing that. That's very bizarre. And the other thing is that, for example, where I come from, I'm Persian, I'm come from Iran. So in Iran, what we do there is just like we pay, like automatically a portion of our salaries will go to insurance, and that's it. Like everything that you will go and you will have a cost will be covered by your insurance. I think my time is up, so I couldn't share my insight over India, Dubai, Germany, and Switzerland. Tanner, stage is yours.
You keep doing that part-time. You know what, James? I'll bite. I'm not sure I agree with universal healthcare. Not in theory, but in actuality. Our healthcare system is already screwed up enough already. I can only imagine how much more they could screw it up if they made it universal. And that's probably where I disagree with universal healthcare. There's probably some truth to that. I worry that all the changes have been made seem to be the wrong changes to be made. That many of the decisions about how to change things are done in some political office, not done based in data. They're done based in theory and what's going to move an agenda or get somebody voted. So I worry a lot for our healthcare system, and something like universal healthcare, while in theory looks great, communism in theory works great too until you inject people into the system. So there are some worries, but I'm not quite sure I entirely disagree. I just disagree with the people who might get a minute today. And Michael was it? Oh, there he goes, right there. I thought I was right at a minute. Good job, Michael. Eugene.
Yes. So let me just get here. Well, I think there are arguments on both sides to see that we are building a community of responsible people. So unless somebody is not able because sick, because old, because of other challenges, the society, to me, we have the human responsibility to take care of our own. But if somebody is able, I think it's, in my view, it's their responsibility to the society to be a responsible member of the society. That means if I can do something on my own, but maybe I'm not earning enough to do that, then I feel some sort of a sense of obligation to participate in some way. I mean, I can volunteer, help somebody else, do something, not simply sit and receive. So that's why I think there's an argument to be made that you just don't hand things to people without then saying that not only do they have rights, but they also have responsibility towards their, the community of people. So that's why I think, universal healthcare system has to have a full understanding of, what makes people be a member of one community. So to me, it's, when somebody willingly, they don't want to participate, in my view, they should, I can't say punish, but they should be kind of have a sense of accountability toward the society. So that's, and these are my views. I'm not just playing the devil's advocate. Having said that, let me see who hasn't spoken yet. Speak up if you haven't said anything yet. Alexander, second round, have you?
Yeah, I've done that.
Let me see here. Well, I think everybody. Alexander, have you spoken? I think so.
I think Fazil.
All right. Yes, Faisal, yes. Please go ahead.
Hey, so are you seeing a loss of sound for large amounts of time, or is that just me? Michael,
I think it's just you.
is it just me? No, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah, it's just you.
So, I kind of wanted to, my thoughts on, I want to take apart James' argument about the freedom and the healthcare and so forth. So I think the biggest metric on that is the cost that's provided, the quality of care versus the cost. So other countries are able to provide the same healthcare with the same freedom at a fraction of the cost, especially if you look at European countries and so forth. So I think that's one of the biggest blocks, because several people mentioned blocks, and the real reason why some of these common sense changes can't take place is probably because they're blocked by lobbyists. So they're not that difficult to identify, they're just hard to implement because they're blocked basically in the political level. So that's what's shaping healthcare coming up for the next set of elections. That's it for me.
Okay, so that's the end of the second round. And the third round is just 5 minutes of open discussion. So everyone can unmute and just talk like any normal.
I'd love to make sure that I heard Tanner, and I'm just going to reflect what I heard, and maybe you could correct me. So I heard you say that in principle you agree with universal health care, and you worry about the actual implementation. Did I hear that right?
That's fair. I feel like there's a follow-on question there, so I won't say more than that.
Sure, and I'm curious. Can you say more? Or I wonder if there were like experiments, regional experiments, where this sort of like concept of universal healthcare was applied to a region and proven to work, or any kind of healthcare, to do like some experimentation. Would that help alleviate some of your concerns around, ensuring that everyone has healthcare? Or does that touch on your fears and concerns?
Well, yeah, I think so, but there's a problem with that too. I think experimentation and gathering data is the right way to make decisions. But the problem often is you're experimenting with people's lives and livelihood and money. So I don't know how you do that in a safe way. But I just worry about the human element of it, that the implementation will be ugly, and we've done a terrible job with it already. So do we want to chance making it?
Okay. So some kind of evidence-based, because I know that different states do have different experiments running, and wondering if we did have the data, would you be willing to have a conversation around sort of what seems to be working and what parts aren't working for different systems? Would that work for you?
Yeah, I also would worry that that data would be tainted in some way for political agendas, but I think that might be a separate issue.
Okay. So worried about trust. Got it.
There are some experiments about education when people were given vouchers, and they could choose either to use these vouchers against public schools or include these vouchers as a partial pay for the private schools. In this case, people would have choice. You could either go with a bare minimum what public schools offer, or add more if you want something extra for your children and use private school. But in this case, people will be in an equal position.
Hey, I'm having a hard time hearing you, Alexander. Could you get close to your mic?
Okay, I'm trying to. So, but this voucher system had a lot of resistance, and the result, people were not allowed to use them against the private schools, and that put people in a different position. I don't agree. I would consider something like that if a person pays taxes, they could be entitled for a minimum coverage, and if they want something extra, they have a choice to do it. With one condition: you have to pay taxes. If you don't pay taxes, you are on your own.
I noticed I had a follow-up question for Tanner. Just hearing your concern about political biasing of data, wondering how you feel about the General Accounting Office and the data that they, it's kind of a bipartisan institution that, they actually, how do you feel about that, those guys?
I have no data to support or refute my position other than to say, how do we know they're bipartisan? There's always issues with trust in the government, and healthcare is a hot topic. So it could be that the data from them is good. It might not be. This is spoken as a Marine of 10 years who defended the principles of this nation, and sometimes I worry about it. So maybe they have good data, maybe they don't, but I would still worry about the trust element.
Yeah, totally. And I just want to say thanks for speaking up, Tanner. It makes the conversation a little bit more real for me. And this is the kind of conversation that I really want to have. I think we need to have this conversation as a nation. That's my take. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
Okay, so that's the
Thanks
end
for
of
your service.
That's the end of the third round in the Conversation Cafe. And now we have the fourth round. And the fourth round, the prompt is, what are your takeaways from this conversation? And the structure is the same as the first two rounds, which is someone goes first and then throws it around and everyone has 1 minute. Okay, so what are your takeaways is the prompt from this conversation about healthcare. And who would like to go first?
I think I'll build on what I just started a second ago. My takeaway is I would like to see this conversation held in a little bit more balanced population with people on various sides of the political spectrum, and to see how the process works. Is this a timed, am I being timed right now, or is this random? Okay, 30 seconds. So that's one part of it. I think listening and seeking mutual understanding is a passion of mine. I guess I'm going to give a plug for an online empathy group that I'm organizing, basically trying to develop listening skills. So I think listening is super important in any kind of dialogue, and seeking that mutual understanding. I will yield my time to Eugene.
Right, yeah, so my takeaway on this topic is that people have good intentions even when they don't think the way I do. So it's as hard as is it for me to understand that, some will have strong opinion about why we shouldn't have something like universal healthcare system. It's hard for me to understand, but the same token, I have to be open to other ideas and to expand myself, to stretch myself. And a conversation like this is just that opportunity to to stretch myself a little bit. So that's my key takeaway. And the topic itself is not as simple as I think it is. So hearing other people gives me a sense of the complexity of the topic. So having said that, I would say Alexander.
Thank you. My takeaway is that we can all agree that our current system is not sufficient, and the fact that not everybody has access to the health care is a concerning fact. We also agree with that we have to do something about that, and we should have a balanced conversation with all political spectrum. And that's what actually we had here. And if you have a group of people with open mind and people who will be able to listen to each other, you might be able to find not ideal, but there is no such thing as ideal, but something that will work better. With this said, I would pass the ball to Zach.
Alexander, did you call my name? Okay, so my takeaway. I believe that I understood, it seems like we all agree that healthcare system in the United States is not efficient, and I don't think that's even productive. So on the other hand, I really liked what Tanner shared regarding trust and the rule of like government, and also the principles and values that we follow in the United States as a nation, and transfer it or translate it into healthcare system by simplifying the entire processes behind the scene and make it even a little bit more understandable for people who are suffering from diseases, who would love to know what will be happen to them in case of crisis, health crisis. Thank you. I will pass it not to Tanner, but to Fafizi.
Ferris Fazi. Sorry,
Yeah,
I didn't know my
Fafizi.
name. No, I agree with the observations that there is a problem with the healthcare, but you can see the two polarized opinions on the call itself, where, I think James is wondering why it's obvious it's dysfunctional, and so are you. And I think Tanner is saying that the statistics from the GAO might not be trusted. But, I think Tanner is from the Marines. They have healthcare, and Massachusetts has excellent healthcare implemented. The stats are there for everyone to see in terms of who's covered and what the results are. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure why the discussion goes one way here, whereas in most other countries, everyone just sees it and they can see what's going on right off the top. So I don't know. It seems like the discussion is directed a little bit. Anyway, I'm out of time, so I'll yield to. Well, we're out of people. Anyway. Jeff, have you spoken?
Nope.
Oh, Tanner, you've spoken, right?
Not yet.
Okay, go ahead. And you can rebut me.
Observations. The first one is 60 seconds goes by really fast when Michael's holding up index cards at you every 15 seconds. But this is a complicated topic. It's an interesting one. There's a lot of things we can learn from other countries, and I wonder if we are. There's a lot of better ways of doing it, and I wonder if we're headed in the right direction. There's a lot of good points. I mean, you wrap up dentists and pharmacies and doctors, and it's not very transparent or informative, and it doesn't seem like it's considering its users or its customers, and it's disappointing. Jeff, I think you haven't talked yet either, right?
All right. Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Tanner. Yeah, I mean, similar takeaways to everybody else, but I think, we're all in our own bubble, I think, right? I think, all of us on this call are similar in our opinions. And I think in general, society is, people can tend to be stuck in their own bubble. I'm living in the Bay Area, so there's quite a bubble here. And it's hard to break out of that bubble, and it's hard to really empathize or really just talk one-on-one or on the same level with people who don't agree with you. And I think that's something I would seek to do more of until we break out of our own bubbles and really kind of come on to agree, get some common ground, agree on, the metrics, so to speak, so we can all agree we're working with the same data. It's hard to really move forward. So that's my takeaway. And good conversation. Thank you. Good structure.